It was an amazing night in the NBA as we had lots of games. This is the first big night. It is right around 10:30 p.m. where we're at. So we are just wrapping up the final game of the night. And I tell you, the games that we had this evening were big. We're going to be focusing on this episode of the Upshot overtime edition. We're going to be focusing on one game in particular, and it was a barn burner. It looked like a playoff game. It was Minnesota and Brooklyn. Yes, we finally got to see kind of what was going on down in Brooklyn, got to see their beautiful court, but we'll get into all that in just a few minutes. This is going to be us digging deep into Brooklyn, Minnesota, what happened, what this is a preview of, and what you should be paying attention to. And you know what? We're just going to go out and say it. We're going to be talking about Kyrie Irving. Let's dive in. Let's do it.
This is the Upshot Podcast. We're about to break down the biggest moments in the NBA.
Long three! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining!
And why they matter now. This is the Upshot Podcast.
All right. Welcome back to the Upshot. We are pumped up because we're in season now. It is late on a Wednesday evening, about 10:30 p.m. We're closing out the games, and we had some big ones tonight. Lots of big news, but we're going to be focusing on one big game in particular because it was a barn burner, and there were some clues as to what we've got coming this season. Tonight, I've got with me my good buddy, Joe Baltz. I'm Ben Atkins. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great, man. Exciting night for us tonight.
It was huge. It was like, I don't know. There was definitely some disappointments for me, just because I'm such a big Grizz fan. I know you are too. That one did not.
Yeah, that was tough.
That one did not turn out so well. We were playing really well, and then I think that we forgot that you play 4 quarters instead of the 3.
We're both realistic Grizz fans, though. You know, like we know this year's the learning curve. We're young. It was just disappointing to see them playing against a team that was without 2 great starters and Jimmy Butler and Dion Waiters, and then still blow it there at the end. I really thought they were going to step up, and it definitely went the other way. But yeah, that one let us down.
It was, but it was a team that has not really seen much NBA action together at all. So this was them in front of the big lights tonight. And
you're looking for sparks, and we saw that. I mean,
that's
a good product they put out. They're going to learn to put 4 quarters together. I enjoyed big pieces of the game. I really did. So that was fun.
Absolutely. So that takes us into there was so many games tonight, and I think that we were all sitting at home tonight watching the NBA. And, we have a habit of watching like 2 or 3 football games at once when we watch football.
Right.
And that's pretty easy to do. Not so much with the NBA. It moves a little too fast. And so we were all, everybody on the Upshot team, we were sitting in the Slack channel tonight, going back and forth, talking about the big games that were happening. And one of the big games that I just have to focus on, because this thing was monstrous, especially once we started going to the end. We had Minnesota, we had Brooklyn, we had Karl Anthony Towns, we had Kyrie Irving, the Poison, as we refer to him ever so kindly.
Gosh,
walk me through walk me through what you saw with this game tonight, because it was amazing.
Yeah, the crazy part was, like you said, we got an 11-game slate. It's night 2. Everyone's got high hopes. So I'm watching a lot of games, and there's a point early in this game that Minnesota's got an 18-point lead, I believe, at one time.
Yeah.
Early in the first half. So it looks like they're getting run out of the gym and on their home floor. And all I keep hearing is Kyrie's playing great. He's put up 20, he's put up 25, then he's put up 30. And by the time he had 30, he had cut the lead down to single digits. And so finally I click over to watch the game, and they had it to a 4-point game. And I think he was sitting at like 32 points or something like that at the time. But it was crazy, it took me back to when he was playing with LeBron. LeBron does so many good things, but what I saw Kyrie doing was creating so much for himself, and it felt so different when he didn't have another superstar next to him. It was like you wanted to root for him because you didn't think he was trying to ball hog or steal the show. It was like, we need you, and it was actually pretty exciting.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that piece.
He was carrying the team tonight, and it was a good product out on the floor. And speaking of, by the way, I just have to stop for a second. Speaking of the floor,
man, that was sweet.
Whoever designed this floor in Brooklyn, I hate to be fanboying over this, but that was amazing.
Yeah.
it's just something. It's like it kind of harkens me back to like the first time you ever saw the Charlotte Hornets floor. It was like, wait, you can do that? That's legal. And you see this court, and there was this whole vibe to it. It was hardwood, but also at the same time they kind of got this concrete vibe.
Well, this is my opinion, but that's why Kyrie and KD are there. I mean, not the court, but
it's a
that's
rebrand.
What Brooklyn's selling. Yeah, like if I'm going to pick a city to play in, Manhattan's up there. I want to play in Madison Square Garden. There's so much history and so many big market things you want to do. And Brooklyn, has only been there for a few years. And the Barclays is an amazing arena, and they've got great ownership. With Joseph Tsai taking over, you got Jay-Z involved, and then now you have the sweet black and white unis. You've got the sweet ash floor down there on the wood grain, and you're just like, everything about it just looks so hip hop and so cool for these guys, and I think they're buying into it. I think it's way cooler to be a Brooklyn Net than a New York Knick right now. So it's paying off, obviously, with two superstars coming in this offseason.
I think I think you're 100% correct. It's like they are going for it. They see the opportunity. They got the players, and I think they understand that what they can establish in the next 2 to 3 years is huge, but what they can establish in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of a brand. And I'll be honest with you, I want to go buy a Nets jersey just because I think they look cool. And when you're doing that kind of thing, you're setting yourself up to have a product that not only is going to sell right now, not only are people going to be really into, but it's setting up yourself so that you can get players that want to come play for you down the road. And
I didn't hear anything you said after buying Nets jersey. Are you buying KD or Kyrie? Because either way, we might be done here.
I think I got to actually buy someone else's because I just dislike both of them so much. But I love the jerseys, and so I think that's what's so interesting is when I have that much dislike for two players on a team, but I can't take my eyes off the team.
Yeah, something
special is going on, and like you said, props to the ownership.
Well, and anyone that's followed some of our shows, I'm not a big Kyrie guy. I've placed some of the blame of what happened in Boston last year on him. And I think some of that for me goes back to whenever he left LeBron in Cleveland. I don't place all that blame on him leaving LeBron. It just seemed so fishy. It seemed like there was something odd there. And then he goes to Boston and they have cultural problems there. Again, not that it's all him. But, he comes back in the offseason. He takes some of the blame on that. He says he definitely didn't work hard at being a great teammate. He didn't work hard at, fixing those fractured things. And like I said, a small piece of me tonight, I'm watching that and, not knowing knowing, I guess, that he doesn't have a superstar to lean on, to pick him up and then to see what he was able to do. It kind of made me root for him a little bit. It made me want to see that greatness, and he did it. My word, he looked phenomenal. His handle is unbelievable. He can do stuff with the ball no one in the league can do. I don't care what you say. With the best defenders in the league on him, his handle, and then being able to shoot any shot. He's got the runner, he's got the floater, he's got the step back, he's got range. He can shoot off balance. He looked phenomenal in night one in the Nets jersey.
Well, that's the thing. It's just like, you're right. It's when you've got someone that you don't particularly like because of some of the stuff that they've done in the past, and then you just watch them play and it just makes you want to cheer for them. That's something about him that has come up with me several times over the years. It's just, he's so fun to watch play. And that's the thing. And so tonight, let's sort of get into it a little bit because, as you said, this was a no game, the early part of the game. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, I guess this is where we're at. And then we get down the stretch and all of a sudden, he wakes up. Kyrie wakes up and we start getting it. And I really want to get into this. We get into a Karl Anthony Towns versus Kyrie Irving sort of back and forth. And so walk me through what you were seeing there.
Yeah, what was crazy was late in the game, there was times where they were getting switched off on screens. It was almost like they were trying to play a one-on-one with everyone else around them, which, definitely wasn't the case. It just happened to be the way the matchups fell. But, they were just both being so aggressive and doing what they do. I saw Karl Anthony Towns hit a step-back three. I saw him shoot a jump shot three. He was still being powerful on the boards. I got Towns finishing with 36 points, 14 rebounds, and just, he looked like a max contract guy. Not that we don't know he is already, but Minnesota's not really a team because they're in the West that we're talking about being a contender this year. And so like anything else, I hate to see a guy that is that talented that we might not see playoff time, but that's how the game felt, which, everyone's excited. It's game one, and, expectations are high for everyone at this point, but man, he looked phenomenal. And then really his sidekick in all this is Andrew Wiggins. And Wiggins tonight was underwhelming all night long. He ends up with 21 points, 8 rebounds, but he shot terrible for the night. I think he, was shooting under 33% for the night from the field, which was underwhelming, but he hits the 2 biggest shots in overtime. He scored on both of the last 2 possessions to put them ahead, for the win. So, both of their big guys at some point definitely had their part, but Kyrie was just the only guy coming at him all night long. That's what I loved. Definitely, I saw at least 3 straight possessions where it was big shot after big shot, and it was just exciting to watch, man.
Well, it looked like playoff basketball. I mean, that's exactly
Absolutely.
it. It's like sometimes in the middle of the season, we get sort of this spot where people are just trying to save themselves. They're trying to get to a spot, and we really start to get in the numbers of wins, losses, and can we save ourselves? But at the beginning of the season, there's none of that. Everybody wants to come out and showcase, especially this year. I think that's the thing that sort of hits me is with all the things that happened in the offseason, with everybody switching teams, these giant superstars. And we saw it last night in LA. And it was amazing just to watch these guys come out and want to put on a show.
Yeah, you're sort of justifying yourself. You've made a big decision. They're all big boys here. No one traded them for the most part. Most of these guys were free agents and deciding where they're going. So that's definitely what I saw from Kyrie. I saw even a little LeBron in his game as much as he was taking it to the hole and shooting it. I think I mentioned late when we were chatting about that down the wire. He got 3 on him and he pitched it over to Allen in the final seconds of regulation to give him an opportunity for a little dump in dunk right there for the win, and it rattles out and Allen goes to the line and misses 2 free throws. That could have obviously been a game changer, but Kyrie was making the plays. He's making the reads and he was making 3 guys guard him. I mean, it was just phenomenal.
It's just, and like I said, it was an unreal night there. And so you get down to it, breaking down the stats. The stats don't really tell the full story, obviously, but we break down the stats. Karl Anthony Towns, 36 points. I think you said he had 14 rebounds.
Right.
And, and he comes away with the win. But it's an overtime win, 127-126. Right. Like, this was absolutely a monstrous game. And it came down to right at the end. And like I said, it looked like a playoff game. We look at Kyrie, he's got 50 points. 50 points tonight. And
yeah. I saw a stat on his score. So when I was watching it live on the game, they said this isn't for opening night. For opening night, I think it was a record for a net, but he was 7th all time in scoring as a net, and I think it was Darren Williams led with 57, and then 2 through 6 were all tied at 52. So if he hits the game winner there, on the last shot, he would have been tied for 2nd for all-time scoring performances, and it's game 1. So, we can only expect what's going on from here.
Well, and weird stat of the night, this is, I think, the most points that have ever been scored in a debut game by someone that switched teams, and that was cool. A mouthful. But I think that was – there's your stat, right? So that was a good game, and I think that anybody that's watched the last 2 nights, especially, like I said, you watched LA last night and you saw the Battle for LA Part 1. You watched tonight with Kyrie and Karl Anthony Towns. This is just the NBA scheduling out of the gate hard. And props to whoever scheduled these first few days, because we got some monster matchups, and you never know how they're going to shake out, but this was big. So, around the league and other places, I know you got excited about a couple of other games and a couple other things that were going on. Where were some bright spots for you this evening with all the games that we had playing? What was exciting to you?
A couple things that stood out early. One of the early games that I was just watching alongside that Grizzly game and at the same time this Brooklyn game is the Detroit-Indy game. And it caught my eye because some players stepping up. No Blake Griffin tonight for Detroit. I would consider him their best player, or at least top 2 with Andre Drummond. And then Oladipo's out still with a ACL tear. He's recovering for Indy. But, I mean, those are both playoff teams for one. And I think Indy – I picked them earlier in the year to finish top 4. I think they'll be hosting a playoff game. So, just had some guys step up. Indy had Malcolm Brogdon, who's the new acquisition from the Bucks. He ends up with 22 points, 11 assists. Sabonis with 27 points for Indy. And then Drummond just plays out of his mind tonight. I think we were talking about Yeah, he had 23 rebounds. That's normal. That's unreal. But
Right.
the 32 points was not normal for him. I think that was double his average from last season. So that was pretty cool.
It was good to watch. Like I said, 23 rebounds, that's a normal night, which is still kind of ungodly if you think about it. But then we're putting up 32 points tonight. And really, you look at that fourth quarter in that game, they put up 36 points to Indy's 24, and that's the game. Like there, that's the game. That's where they pull it out, and it was because of what was happening with Drummond there at the end. Right. So I dig it. What else you got? Because I know that.
Let me tell you who stands out individually. So we jumped around on some guys, but let me tell you, Kyrie. Obviously, we've hit him. He looked phenomenal. Probably my second favorite guy of the night's Luka with the Mavs. He literally. I'll say this. Last time I checked, it was fourth quarter. He had 32 points. And I assumed was probably done for the night because they had a nice lead. And Porzingis making his debut for Dallas after the trade last year. He gets traded whenever he has the ACL tear. So, he's out. And so seeing both of those guys, they both had great games. Porzingis was struggling from the field a little bit. It was good to see him out there. I'm sure more of that had to do with the recovering from the injury, first real action like that, more so than, being on a new team. But Luka looks like he could be the MVP right now. And I know we had some grumblings going on amongst our staff with that earlier. But,
right.
what's crazy that makes me feel like he's LeBron-esque, and shoot me if I'm going too far here, but 32 points, 12 of 18 shooting. I mean,
he actually ended up with 34. He had two more.
Okay.
So, I mean, like the guys, he's even better with
66% on my last count from the field. 66%. And he's a 6'8" point guard. He's making passes all over the floor. He's handling. He's having fun out there. I mean, the guy looks like he can do whatever he wants, and which is what I also saw from Kyrie. And guys like that are scary. And I think that he's on a team that's scary. If Dallas was in the East, I think they'd be right up there in that top 3 or 4. But obviously, we know what a juggernaut the West is. So I still think they got a great shot to slip in at that 7 or 8 spot. But getting off to a great start tonight with a runaway win there.
Yeah, it was a good game, and like I said, just watching Luka, he's just one of those people that you'd watch him play by himself. Right. So he comes out strong,
right?
And it was a lot of fun. So a couple other things. I know that we were excited to watch Ja play. It was not my favorite Ja performance that I've ever seen him put up, but I feel like we get into Ja, and I saw things tonight with him that if they get a couple more reps out on the court in live games, this guy can be a monster. It's just, is he going to put it together?
What we're seeing there in Memphis, and we're all Memphis fans, here at the Upshot. So we've seen what they've been the last 10 years, and what we're seeing is that style change. We saw a little bit of it last year once Mark and Conley were traded out, and we were younger, but it wasn't like we had an identity. We just weren't the grit grind anymore. But I think with these young guys, Brandon Clark, Ja, Triple J, I think we're seeing a more tempo team, a team that can put that same defensive pressure, but they're wanting to push the ball. And Ja's the perfect orchestrator of all that. So that piece is exciting. I will say probably the biggest game I've left off so far is this Celtics 76ers game. We got
to talk about that.
Early,
absolutely.
And honestly, it looked like it was a little underwhelming at the end, but man, it was so exciting early. I felt like everyone that was on the floor felt like a superstar the whole time. Did you get a little bit of a feel like that, or did you get to watch any of that?
Yeah, I caught pieces of it. And, watching Simmons is just always magic. And then Tatum had a good night, too, for Boston. And it's, the end score doesn't really showcase where it ended up, obviously. But, yeah, there was some electricity there tonight. And I did expect it with, just being where the game was, and the two teams involved. But there was some magic going on out there tonight. And those are two teams that I'm really excited about, even though they look a lot different than they used to.
And both teams are expected to finish in the top 3 in the East. So, I mean, that literally could be an Eastern Conference final matchup. But, I think it was Marshall said, and when we were chatting earlier tonight, how deep Boston looked. I probably watched maybe half a quarter of that game and never even saw what's our boy's name? I'm trying to look back up here at Boston. Gordon Hayward. I never even saw him score.
Yeah, Hayward.
And he finished with 25. That's kind of the depth. You mentioned Tatum. Kemba had his debut. He ended up with 12. He kind of had an off night for sure. He ended up 4 of 18. So, he was underwhelming. But and I'm sure that was a difference. He pulled off in the second half because he looked a little sharper earlier. But that Philly team, good grief. The thing that they have going for them is if they make it through the East, not that it's an easier route, but well,
I think it's much easier.
But
so yeah,
that team is solid, man, top to bottom. I think that they got a real shot this year.
I do too. And so just a couple more things around the horn because, we have to bring up some cool things that I got excited about that I didn't expect tonight. PJ Washington.
Oh man.
That was, I don't know, for some guy that like, you're like, oh, he's good. And, we got a Kentucky guy here. But like, he comes out tonight, and how many threes did he hit? What were our numbers here for PJ
Washington?
Washington?
7 3-pointers, and 27 points in his rookie debut. Not bad.
Unreal. And yeah, obviously we're talking about the Bulls and the Hornets. So, I mean, yeah.
Right.
But
well, let me hit you with this. So, PJ, I mean, the only reason I know him is from Kentucky. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know what team he landed on. When I heard his name, I remembered that he played for Kentucky last year. I didn't even remember that he was on Charlotte. And then you got Devontae Graham for Charlotte. Who exactly? He comes off the bench tonight. He's 6 of 7 from the arc. Ends up with 23 points off the bench, and their team actually set a team record with 23 3-pointers tonight. So, they certainly didn't play like a bottom dweller tonight, even though we all project that for them, but definitely a great night shooting the ball for them.
Yeah. And it's that game ends up 125 to 126 with the Bulls going down. And that's, kind of a heartbreaker. And we were talking about this, if you're a Bulls fan, you can't come out this way. You cannot come out of, you can't come out in game one and lose to the Hornets. And I mean, I'd be saying that for any team, not to knock on the Hornets, but it's not been the best offseason recruiting, things like that.
Right.
So, it's rough. It's rough. And like I said,
I agree with you. I think the number one thing is you're going to see, throughout the season, you just run into that buzzsaw where a team had their greatest night of the season shooting against you. It may have been Charlotte against them in game one. So I don't read too much into it. It's just disappointing because I think most people for the Bulls wrote that off as a win already. So that one hurts and it may come back to bite them. But I mean, if someone's making a franchise record number of threes on you, it's probably not even your defense. It's probably just an inordinate amount of makes that they're not going to continue to have. But yeah, a little disappointing for the Bulls tonight.
Agreed. All right. So we like keeping these nice and short when we're doing them on the fly. Yeah. You got anything else you want to mention tonight? Anything else exciting, or we feel like we got it covered?
Man, nothing really flew off the table at me. There's actually a couple good later games that I wasn't getting to watch as much. Like I really wanted to see what the Jazz and the Nuggets looked like. The Jazz were playing the Thunder and the Nuggets were playing the Trailblazers. But I was catching these early games. I didn't get a chance to finish up, so I'm excited to maybe flip those back on. It looks like the Jazz actually just finished up. They won.
Go Jazz! There we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
Finally, with a rough start in that one, 0-for-7 to start the game. So don't love that, but. Always going to be rooting for my boy there.
So about this time, we're in about quarter 3, third quarter for the Denver-Portland game. And I think Denver's got the slight edge, but I'm going to turn that one on too. So tomorrow, let us know. Go to upshotpodcast.com and let us know which games you were watching, what you got excited about, and what you think about our boy Kyrie over in Brooklyn in his 50-point debut, even though they lost. Let us know what you think. So, like we said, we love doing these. We love keeping you in the know about what's going on, what's exciting. And if you miss anything, you can come here and get up to speed really quickly. Make sure you go to upshotpodcast.com for all of the show notes. Join our Facebook group. Come talk some basketball smack with us. That's at upshotpodcast.com too. And of course, make sure you leave us a review on iTunes. We love hearing what you think, and we love hearing what you want to hear more of. So, Joe, thanks for being here tonight, man. We're going to get out here. We're going to watch some more basketball. And this weekend, we're taking an Upshot trip.
I'm excited about that.
We are heading out to the first Grizzlies game, and we're going to be doing a whole set of podcasts. Not about the Grizzlies, actually, but we're going to be doing a whole set of podcasts from Memphis, Tennessee, right after the game, and you're going to be hearing more of that stuff soon. So, yeah, awesome, man. I will see you soon this weekend. For everybody listening, thank you so much for being here. Let us know what you think, and we will see you on the next edition of The Upshot. We'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to the Upshot NBA podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure to click the subscribe button so you can get a new Upshot episode every week. And make sure to leave us a review on your podcast app as soon as you're done listening.